Arsenal are moving, and they are moving fast. The summer transfer window has barely opened, and already the picture at the Emirates Stadium is becoming clearer by the hour. Mikel Arteta and sporting director Andrea Berta are not sitting still. They are not waiting. They are actively identifying, contacting, and pursuing the attacking reinforcements this club desperately needs heading into next season. And here is what makes this moment so fascinating. Arsenal just won the Premier League. They reached the Champions League final. By almost any measure, this was a brilliant season for this football club. But the reality for the club is that finishing as runners-up in Europe's biggest competition has only sharpened the hunger inside that dressing room. Arteta knows what this squad is still missing. Berta knows it. And now, through a series of very telling transfer developments, we are starting to see the exact shape of the squad they want to build. There are 4 names sitting at the centre of this story right now. Morgan Rogers, Eli Junior Kroupi, Marcus Rashford. And a man already inside the club whose journey to Arsenal was more dramatic than most people realise, Leandro Trossard. Each of these stories tells us something important about how Arsenal operate, what kind of players Arteta values, and where the real decisions will be made this summer. Let us get into it. Before we go any further, let me make something very clear. The decisions Arsenal make this summer are not just about adding bodies to a squad. They are about the difference between competing for trophies and actually winning them. Arsenal came so close in the Champions League final. So close. And the one area where the debate continues to rage among serious analysts is the attacking department, not the defence, not the midfield, the attack, the sharpness. The cutting edge in the biggest moments. Arteta has built something remarkable at this football club. The defensive structure is elite. The system is well understood by every player. But when you reach a Champions League final, the margin between winning and losing often comes down to individual brilliance in the final third. And that is exactly the area Berta is now targeting with real urgency. The stakes here are enormous. Get these signings right, and Arsenal become genuine favourites to go one step further next season. Get them wrong, or worse, lose this summer window without adding genuine quality, and the gap to the very top of European football could remain. So every name linked to Arsenal right now carries real weight. Every decision matters. If you are the kind of football supporter who wants proper analysis on stories like this, not clickbait, not noise, but real depth and context, then hit that subscribe button right now. This channel exists to give Arsenal supporters the full picture. Every week, every story, no shortcuts. Now, let us talk about these players one by one. Morgan Rogers and what he tells us about Arteta. The situation is straightforward. Arsenal have identified Morgan Rogers of Aston Villa as one of their top attacking targets this summer. Andrea Berta is actively working on this one, and Rogers appears to be near the very top of his priority list. Now, some supporters will hear that name and immediately ask, is Rogers the right level for a club with Arsenal's ambitions? It is a fair question. And the answer, when you examine the details carefully, is actually very interesting. Let us start with what Rogers brings to the table. The 24-year-old operates primarily as a number 10 and as a left winger. Those two positions are critically important for how Arteta sets up his team. And the fact that Rogers can play both roles with genuine quality is, from Arteta's perspective, not just a bonus. It is almost a requirement. The evidence suggests that Arteta has built his entire squad philosophy around players who can operate in multiple positions. Look at the signings that have defined his tenure. Piero Hincapié, Christian Mosquera, Eberechi Eze, Jurrien Timber. Every single one of those players can perform in different roles depending on what the game demands. This is not a coincidence. This is a deliberate and calculated approach to squad building. Rogers fits that blueprint almost perfectly. At 6'2" and 80 kilograms, he also fits another crucial part of the Arteta profile, physicality. This Arsenal team has been transformed into one of the most physically imposing sides in the Premier League. Think about the defensive partnership of Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba. Think about the presence and power that runs through every line of this team. Arteta wants attackers who can match that physical intensity. Players who will not be pushed off the ball when it gets tight and difficult. Rogers passes that test. Now let us look at his recent numbers, because they are genuinely impressive. Last season, the Aston Villa attacker contributed 14 goals and 12 assists. Those are not squad player numbers. Those are the numbers of someone who played a central role in a top-performing team. He also contributed a goal and an assist in the Europa League final, helping Villa secure European glory. That tells you he can perform when the pressure is highest. But perhaps the detail that will matter most to Arsenal's medical department is this. Over the last 2 seasons combined, Rogers has made 109 appearances for Aston Villa. 109. In a period when Arsenal have suffered repeated and damaging injury setbacks to key players, that level of availability is genuinely priceless. The reality for the club is that Arsenal have now decided to overhaul their medical department this summer after losing so many players to injury this past season. In that context, signing a player with Rogers' availability record is not just smart, it is strategic thinking at the highest level. The message written on the walls of Arsenal's physio room says it best. Your best ability is your availability. Rodgers embodies that principle completely. This transfer, if it happens, would represent classic Arteta thinking. Versatile, physical, proven in the Premier League, available, reliable, progressive, tick every box. Eli Junior Kroupi and the harsh truth Arsenal must face. Now we move to the story that has generated perhaps the most excitement among Arsenal supporters over the last few weeks. Eli Junior Kroupi. The 19-year-old Bournemouth striker had a season that announced him to the entire continent of European football. 13 Premier League goals at the age of 19. Those are extraordinary numbers. And the clubs who noticed were not small. Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, and of course, Arsenal. Multiple clubs, including Arsenal, have already made contact with Bournemouth. They have asked the South Coast club to keep them informed about the player's situation. That is a confirmed step. That is real interest. That is not just speculation. But here is where I have to be straight with you, because this is what proper analysis demands. The situation is that Kroupi's dream club is Paris Saint-Germain, not Arsenal, not Barcelona, not Bayern Munich, PSG. It is now clear that the young Frenchman would be, in the words of those close to him, delighted at the idea of joining the Parisian club. That is a significant detail that Arsenal supporters need to understand. Because no matter how attractive Arsenal's project is, no matter how well Arteta has built this team, you cannot sign a player who has his heart set somewhere else. Not at this level, not for this kind of money. And the money involved here is substantial. Bournemouth are demanding €100 million for Kroupi. That converts to approximately £86 million. That is a serious investment for any club. Now, the critical question is whether PSG, who have just won the Champions League, are prepared to meet that valuation. That remains to be seen. Nothing is confirmed on that front. This is still a developing situation, but here is the analytical reality. If PSG come in with a serious bid that meets Bournemouth's asking price, and Kroupi's personal preference is already with the Parisian club, Arsenal's chances of winning that race become very slim indeed. What this situation tells us about Arsenal's recruitment approach is interesting. They made contact. They asked to be kept informed. They are doing their due diligence. That is correct procedure. You always keep a line open on a player of this quality, but the evidence suggests that Berta and Arteta are realistic enough to know that Kroupi may not be their primary route to solving the attacking problem. The player is a genuine elite talent, a France under-21 international with 13 Premier League goals at 19 years old. Whoever signs him will be getting one of the most exciting young attackers in world football. But Arsenal may need to direct their energy and resources toward targets who are more genuinely attainable. And that brings us to someone who fits that description far more cleanly. Marcus Rashford and the £26 million conversation. There is a name that has entered this Arsenal conversation in a way that will divide supporters immediately. Marcus Rashford, currently of Manchester United. And the reason this story deserves serious analysis is not the headline. It is the detail underneath it. Former Premier League striker Darren Bent has publicly urged Arsenal to move for Rashford this summer. Speaking on TalkSport, Bent laid out a clear and reasoned case. He argued that Rashford offers a combination of qualities that is very difficult to find at the price Manchester United might accept. Let us look at the facts carefully here. Rashford spent last season on loan at Barcelona, and he did not just survive at that level, he delivered. 14 goals, 14 assists in La Liga for one of the biggest clubs in the world. Those are outstanding numbers for any attacker, let alone one who some people had written off entirely just 12 months earlier. However, Barcelona then signed Anthony Gordon for £60 million. That decision effectively closed the door on any permanent move for Rashford to Spain. He returned to Manchester United, and now the conversation shifts. The price being discussed is somewhere in the range of £20 to £26 million. Bent himself made the point clearly on TalkSport. He said, and I am conveying his view faithfully here, that at that price level, you simply do not find a player of Rashford's demonstrated quality. He used the phrase that he would be all over him. That reflects the analytical point about value rather than just capability. Now let us apply the Arteta framework to Rashford specifically. Versatility. Rashford can play as a centre-forward or as a left winger. That dual capability means he can serve as an alternative to Victor Gyökeres or Kai Havertz through the middle, or step in as the starting left winger to replace Leandro Trossard, who is being widely discussed as a potential departure from the club. One player, two positions covered. That is exactly the kind of signing Arteta has consistently prioritised. Physicality. At 6'2" and 80 kilograms, Rashford matches the physical profile that Arsenal look for in their attacking players. This is not a small technical player who will be bullied off the ball on a cold Tuesday night in the Premier League. He has the size and the power to operate in multiple systems and situations. Premier League experience. Rashford grew up in the Premier League. He knows exactly what it demands physically, mentally, and technically. That is a significant advantage when integrating quickly into a new club with a specific and demanding system. But I must be precise here and separate what is confirmed from what remains a rumour. It is now clear that Rashford's return to Arsenal has been suggested by Darren Bent, and that a price in the region of £26 million has been referenced in connection with a potential move. However, this remains at the level of pundit recommendation and reported interest. There is no confirmed contact between Arsenal and Manchester United confirmed in the information available to us. This is a rumour and a recommendation, not a done deal or even an advanced negotiation. Viewers should understand that distinction clearly. Rashford is a name in the conversation. He is not yet a name on the contract. The Trossard story and what it reveals about Arsenal's hidden genius. Now, I want to take you back to a story that happened 3.5 years ago, because it contains something that tells us a great deal about how football at the top level actually works. And why Arsenal, under this current regime, have been smarter than most people give them credit for. January 2023, Arsenal were chasing Mikel from Shakhtar Donetsk. It was a high-profile pursuit. The whole football world was watching. And then, in the 11th hour, Chelsea came in and hijacked the deal completely. Arsenal were left with nothing. In that moment, a player called Leandro Trossard had just fallen out with his manager Roberto De Zerbi at Brighton and Hove Albion and had been removed from the squad. His agent at the time, Josie Comhair, was desperately searching for a new club. He had even flown to France to explore options with Marseille. Comhair saw an opportunity. He believed Arsenal, stung by the Mudryk collapse, might be ready to move quickly on an alternative, but he had a problem. He did not have the contact details for Arsenal's sporting director, Edu Gaspar, and this is where the story takes a turn that nobody could have written in advance. Comhair turned to Fabrizio Romano, the Italian journalist who has built his entire reputation on knowing things before anyone else. Romano had Edu's number, and Romano agreed to share it, but not for free. The deal, as Comhair himself confirmed, was simple. Romano would give him Edu's contact details in exchange for exclusive information about the transfer as it developed. Comhair agreed. The call was made. Arsenal moved. Trossard joined for an initial fee of just £20 million. Now let us look at what that £20 million signing delivered. 70 goal contributions in 105 starts. Let that settle for a moment. 70 in 105 starts. As a player who was, by general consensus, never the first choice starter, he was a squad player, a rotation option. A man who came off the bench, off the left, and consistently delivered in moments that mattered. The evidence suggests that Trossard became one of the most cost-effective and clutch signings of the entire Arteta era. And his journey to Arsenal happened because of a paint can, a desperate agent, and a transfer journalist who knew everyone's phone number. It is now clear that Comhair is no longer Trossard's agent. The Belgian is currently represented by a different agency. But the story of how this transfer happened is a reminder that at the top level of football, the margins are incredibly small, and the connections matter enormously. There are now serious discussions about whether Trossard will remain at Arsenal heading into next season. Multiple sources are pointing toward a potential departure. And if that does happen, it will represent the end of a chapter that far exceeded what anyone expected when it began on a rainy January afternoon back in 2023. Whoever replaces him on that left side will have big boots to fill. Not glamorous boots, not famous boots, but quietly, relentlessly, brilliantly effective boots. What Arsenal's summer actually looks like right now. Let me now bring this all together, because when you look at these four stories as a connected whole, a very clear picture emerges. Arsenal are in the market for attacking reinforcements. That is confirmed. Berta is leading the recruitment process. That is confirmed. The top name currently being pursued in terms of genuine attainability and profile fit appears to be Morgan Rogers. Versatile, physical, proven, available. He fits the Arteta model in almost every way, and the pursuit is described as serious and advanced in its direction. Eli Junior Kroupi represents the dream target. The exciting generational talent who would electrify the Emirates and potentially develop into a world-class player over the next 5 years. But the reality for the club is that his personal preference lies with Paris Saint-Germain, and Bournemouth's €100 million valuation makes this a very complicated deal to complete even without that complication. Marcus Rashford represents a different kind of opportunity, the reclamation project. The player who silenced his critics in Barcelona last season and is now available at a price that makes serious financial sense. The versatility argument is real, the value argument is real, but this remains at the stage of recommendation and reported links rather than confirmed negotiations. And Leandro Trossard, already inside the building, already a proven contributor, but potentially moving toward the exit this summer as Arsenal reshape and refresh the attacking options around him. The decisions that get made in the coming weeks will define whether next season represents the next step forward or simply another lap of the same journey. Arteta has built the foundation. He has the structure. He has the system. Now he needs the individual quality in the final third to make the difference when the biggest games arrive. The summer of 2026 is not just another transfer window for Arsenal. It is the moment where the ambition either gets matched with the investment or the gap to the true elite remains. What stands out most clearly from everything we have examined today is this: Arsenal are not rebuilding. They are not in transition. They are a finished team that needs surgical additions in very specific areas. The Krooppy story shows that Arsenal are casting their net wide and identifying the best young talent in Europe. The Rodgers story shows that Berta is focused on practical, system-compatible signings that strengthen the squad in multiple positions at once. The Rashford story shows that value and versatility are being considered seriously alongside more expensive options. And the Trossard story is a reminder that sometimes the best signings arrive through the most unexpected doors. Mikel Arteta has earned the right to demand better. Andrea Berta has been given the task of delivering it, and Arsenal supporters, after a season that delivered a Premier League title but fell just short in Europe, deserve to see the club back themselves this summer. The pieces are in motion, the names are on the board, the summer is young, and for Arsenal the work has already begun.